Click here to subscribe our channel. Do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of free videos.
So market structure will continue. Within that market, it is oligopoly market. First will be the oligopoly market. Closed. Remember this oligopoly, obviously first of all we will be writing the various topics or content for this oligopoly market. We will start with the features or characteristic of oligopoly market. Then remember oligopoly you can divide it into two parts. One is non-collusive oligopoly. Non-collusion means firms are not making any collusion. Collusion का मतलब some sort of understanding है in order to maximize their combined profit. So in the case of collusion they will make some agreement, and non-collusion means non-collusion का मतलब हो गया they are competing with each other, और collusion में they are not competing with each other. So if I say oligopoly is non-collusive, it means firms are competing with each other, and when I say collusive it means they are not competing with each other, rather they are colluding to maximize their joint profit. And in the non-collusion they are competing with each other just to maximize their individual profit. So one part of oligopoly will be non-collusive, the other part of oligopoly is collusive oligopoly. Just for example, oil producing and exporting countries, it is an international cartel. So that cartel decide what will be the price. That cartel decide how much quantity to produce, and what is the objective of that cartel? Profit maximization of which country? It is basically profit maximization for the OPEC as a group. So in the case of collusive oligopoly you maximize the combined profit. In the case of non-collusive oligopoly, each individual firm try to maximize their own profit. So simply in the case of non-collusion they are competing with each other, and in the case of collusion they are not competing with each other, they are making some sort of collusion. Collusive oligopoly can also be of different form, non-collusive oligopoly can also be of different form. The prominent examples are, one model will be Cournot model, after that will be Burton model, then Stackelberg model. Cournot model, Burton model, Stackelberg model. These first three is basically example of non-collusive. This first three is an example of non-collusive oligopoly. Non-collusive is basically an example. Non-collusive के आप कह सकते हैं तीन example है, Cournot, Burton and Stackelberg model. Then for collusive oligopoly, within that up you can make one more, is Chamberlain's model. But this is Chamberlain's model of a small group. Chamberlain's model of small group. Be careful while answering Chamberlain model. Chamberlain model will also come in monopolistic, but in monopolistic number of firms will be large, and in oligopoly number of firms are less. So this is Chamberlain model of a small group. Then among the important collusive oligopoly, one will be price leadership. Price leadership model. Price leadership model. Among that price leadership, or ahead of that price leadership, mark A, B and C. One form of collusive oligopoly is price leadership model. The leadership model say that one firm will act as leader. That leader will set price and others will follow. Others will be acting as price taker. But who will be the leader? The answer depends upon which firm we study. One concept says leader will be the dominant firm. Others say leader will be the low cost firm. So accordingly we have dominant from price leadership or low cost from price leadership. So first is dominant firm price leadership, other is a low cost firm price leadership, and there is a third form which say it is a barometric price leadership. Barometric price leadership. So within that price leadership, remember there are three approach. Within that price leadership there will be three parts: dominant firm, low cost firm and price leadership. Most frequently asked question is from this dominant firm. Last year की question में dominant firm price leadership है. Then other form of collusion is cartel. Other form of collusion is cartel. Club these two, that is price leadership and cartel, and these two are example of collusive oligopoly. These are examples of collusive oligopoly. Collusive oligopoly. Then another topic in the oligopoly will be, an important feature of oligopoly is that prices tends to be rigid. So it is price rigidity model. Just for example, why price of Coke and Pepsi do not change every day? Why their prices are same? Although their cost is changing, but they do not change their price. So they keep their price. So we have to find the economic reason why prices tends to be rigid in the oligopoly market. So in a oligopoly market, prices tends to be sticky or rigid. That concept has been explained by Paul Sweezy. So it will be Paul Sweezy King demand curve. Paul Sweezy King demand curve. Paul Sweezy King demand curve concept. So again part of that oligopoly. Now apart from that, another topic in this oligopoly will be Baumol's sales revenue maximization. Baumol's sales revenue maximization. Sales revenue maximization. Baumol's sales revenue maximization. Remember, in the entire micro or market structure, we presume that the objective of firm is maximize profit. Firm will always produce that much quantity where its profit get maximized. And when profit get maximized, where MR is equal to. But in this market, you can say that objective of firm could be maximization of sales. So objective could be different. The objective could be maximization of profit, or objective could be maximization of sales as well. So why we study sales maximization here and not under perfect competition. So we have to study sales maximization objective as well. In addition to that, next part will be game theory. Next part will be the game theory. Game theory, remember, it is just a mathematical technique to explain interdependency, and that interdependency exists in oligopoly market. तो गेम थ्योरी एक मैथमेटिकल टेक्निक है, बट इट डज नॉट मीन कि द क्वेश्चन विल बी मैथमेटिकल. There could be, but generally the game theory topic basically say that it is a mathematical tool to explain interdependency, which is an important feature of oligopoly market. Oligopoly market में firms के बीच interdependency है. Interdependency about price, interdependency about output, interdependency about advertisement. So that interdependency will be explained by using game theory, and most important example will be prisoner's dilemma. Prisoner's dilemma. And finally add one more part is Bain's limit theory. Bain's limit price theory. Bain's limit price theory. Bain's limit price theory. So approximately there are 10 or 11 subtopics within that oligopoly. So the content in oligopoly is always more. In Cournot there will be 2 chapters. One will be collusive, other will be non-collusive. And there will be a separate chapter for sales maximization, separate chapter for Bain's limit price theory. तो वो माइक्रो वाले स्पायरल के अंदर इंक्लूडेड है all chapters. So the source will be basically Cournot. And just see, before starting this topic, just see the weightage of this topic. Question number 9. Suppose if you are looking at the for 2016 question, explain Kinked demand curve theory, write on prisoner's dilemma and Nash equilibrium. Both are part of oligopoly. Limit price theory, again part of oligopoly. So 3 questions from that oligopoly chapter only. So usually you will find at least 2 questions from oligopoly. So it could be more than 2, but generally there are 2 parts, but 2 parts means around 30 marks oligopoly. So it could be more than that. So 30 to 45 marks question obviously will be getting from oligopoly part. So start from the first topic, which is features. Make this heading first. So content is clear. It will be taking around 3 to 4 classes overall for completing that. Start with this first topic, feature of oligopoly market. Remember, when we have to explain a feature of oligopoly market, oligo means what? Oligo means few. So this market is characterized by few sellers, but don't quantify. More than one, not large in number, is few. एक से ज़्यादा हैं, but there are not many. Don't quantify. It is not 2 to 10. It is not. ठीक है, अगर कहीं लिखा है इग्नोर कीजिएगा, बिकॉज किसी ऑथेंटिक बुक में नहीं लिख रहे हैं, तो डोंट यूज दैट. जस्ट से ओलिगोपोली मार्केट इज कैरेक्टराइज्ड बाय प्रेजेंस ऑफ few sellers, but few here means more than one but not large in number. And if you have only 2 seller, then it will be, so duopoly is an example of oligopoly, because I said oligo means few more than one, so 2 is more than one but not large in number, so duopoly is a part of oligopoly. In maximum model you have to explain duopoly in fact. Now if there are few sellers in the market, due to presence of few sellers there is interdependency. Due to presence of few sellers in market, there is interdependency in market. Interdependency about what? Interdependency about output. Interdependency could be related to price. Interdependency could be related to advertisement, whether to advertise or not to advertise, whether to increase price or decrease price, whether to increase production or decrease production. This interdependency is the main reason which create uncertainty in the market. Interdependency is the main reason which create uncertainty in the market. Uncertainty about what? Uncertainty about the impact on price, uncertainty about the impact on output, uncertainty about the impact on advertisement. For example, suppose if Coke decide to reduce the price, then what will be its impact? कोक ने अगर डिसाइड किया कि वो प्राइस को कम करता है तो उसका इफेक्ट क्या होगा? It all depends upon how Pepsi is going to react. It all depends upon how Pepsi is going to react. If Pepsi will not change the price, then its sales will increase more. If Pepsi also follows by reducing price in the same proportion, the sales may increase but only nominal. If Pepsi react by reducing price more, then despite reducing price, इसका sales कम हो जाएगा. So there is greater uncertainty. Uncertainty about what will be the impact of your own decision, because you do not know how your competitor is going to respond or react. तो अगर आपको competitor का response नहीं मालूम है, then you do not know what will be the outcome of your own decision, because the outcome of your own decision depends upon how the other firm is going to respond, how the other player is going to react. In that way there is uncertainty. So is there any way to reduce that uncertainty? How can firms reduce uncertainty? Make some sort of agreement. So there comes the role of collusion. So collusive oligopoly is a way to minimize what? Uncertainty and to reduce interdependency. Because if they form a price leadership, then uncertainty about price is not there, because one leader will set the price, others will follow the price. So collusive oligopoly you can understand in the context of reducing that uncertainty. Third important part is that generally we say that in the oligopoly market, demand curve is indeterminate. Demand curve is indeterminate. So what does that mean? Demand curve is not determinate. So it is indeterminate. It simply means this. How to plot demand curve? When you draw demand curve, you must know the relation between price and quantity. Suppose I take price of Coke and quantity of Coke. Arbitrarily I am taking a number. At price 10, quantity sold in market is 5. If Coke reduces price from 10 to 5, what will be the impact on its sales? It may increase, may not increase, may reduce also, may increase by more amount also, may increase by less amount also. It all depends upon how competitor is going to react. So in fact you do not exactly know what will be the effect of reduction of price on the quantity. If you do not know it, you can't draw the line, you can't draw the demand curve. So demand curve is not determined, demand curve is indeterminate. Since demand curve is indeterminate, that is why जो list लिख रखा है, in that list you have taken various models, Cournot model, Burton model, Stackelberg model. Why we are studying so much model here? Each model will highlight one important feature of this market. So in the Cournot model you will say that firms determine their output together. In Burton model I will say firms determine their price together. In the Stakelberg model, you will say that one firm choose price first, then second firm responds. So you have to explain this oligopoly market from different angle. Next property is price rigidity. Prices tends to be rigid in the oligopoly market. But why price tends to be rigid? Why not any particular firm change the price? Because they face a dilemma. And what is the dilemma here? If Coke has to reduce price, what Coke fears? Pepsi may not increase the price, तो उसका market share कम हो जाएगा. And when Coke decides to reduce the price, then what is the fear? Pepsi may follow. When Pepsi will follow, the market share will remain same. So if one firm has to raise the price, then also there is a dilemma. While reducing the price, then also there is a dilemma. While raising the price, you fear that others will not follow you. While reducing the price, you fear that others will follow you. So when others will follow, it means what? Coke ने price कम किया, Pepsi ने price कम किया, it may start a price war. But that price war is very good from consumer point of view. But Pepsi and Coke are intelligent enough to recognize their interdependency, and they are not competing on the basis of price. They are not competing on the basis of price, they are competing on the basis of advertisement or sales promotion. In that context, we find the importance of selling cost in this market more. So presence of selling cost is more in this market. Just keep these 5 points in mind while studying oligopoly market. That oligopoly market is characterized by few sellers. Because of few sellers, there is interdependency. Large number of sellers में interdependency क्यों नहीं होती? Large number of seller होगा तो why not there is interdependency? If there is large number of seller, then suppose in a market there are many firms, like competitive market. So if in that market there is one particular firm X, if price of that product decreases, then that firm expect to sell more at the cost of, एक फर्म अगर प्राइस को कम करता है तो उसका सेल्स बढ़ेगा. So that firm expect to sell more at the cost of others. But how many others? There are many others. So the impact will get diffused. So you can ignore that. But if a market is characterized by only few sellers, then if market is characterized by only presence of few firms, in that case when one firm will reduce the price, it can also increase the sales at the cost of others. But here there are many, only few others. So others can't ignore that. So you can't ignore interdependency in the case of few sellers, but you can ignore it in the case of many sellers. So because of few sellers, there is interdependency. Because of that, demand is not determined, prices are rigid, and there is presence of selling cost. Just keep these facts in mind. No one is asking what are the features of oligopoly. You have to be just familiar with that. Now before starting that model, like Cournot model, Burton model, explain this part first, that is price rigidity. So in that topic you are explaining basically this price rigidity model. Then we can start with this Cournot, Burton, Stakelberg and so on. So first heading is price rigidity model or Paul-Swery model.
Can we say that in perfect competition, since price includes only normal profit, that's why firms cannot afford to decrease the price?
नॉर्मल प्रॉफिट तो तब होगा ना जब हम लॉन्ग रन की बात करेंगे. इन शॉर्ट रन इट इज़ नॉट नॉर्मल प्रॉफिट. इन शॉर्ट रन फर्म्स अर्न प्रॉफिट. लॉन्ग रन तो तब होता है ना जब हम प्राइस नॉर्मल प्रॉफिट तब होगा when we talk about only the long run. But in short run, profit can be abnormal. In short run, there could be loss also. The purpose of studying market structure is that there are many types of market. We have to explain all type of market. So if you are going to explain oligopoly market, then just focus on those market which is characterized by few sellers. Don't relate it to that market which is characterized by many sellers. If I say market for pen, then it is more competitive in nature because there are many sellers. Market for luxury car, now there will be very few. So market for luxury car will become what? It is mainly an example of oligopoly. If internationally, if you can say market for cold drinks, mainly dominated by Coke and Pepsi. So the market is what? Oligopoly in nature. So there are various types of market. In those various types of market, we are focusing on the oligopoly market. And the property of that oligopoly market is a rigidity of price. So just focus on this aspect right now. Price rigidity model. Or Paul-Swayze model. Price rigidity or Paul-Swayze model. ठीक है, इस क्वेश्चन की फ्रीक्वेंसी आई थिंक 3 to 4 टाइम्स at TCA पेपर में आ चुका है, वेदर इट इज ऑप्शनल और इन द इकोनॉमी सर्विस. Paul-Swayze model or price rigidity model. The important part is that Paul-Swayze argued that oligopoly firm has Kinked demand curve. Oligopoly firm has Kinked demand curve. So when oligopoly firm has Kinked demand curve, it means kink means there is a bend. So demand curve is not a single straight line. The upper part is elastic, and after that kink it is inelastic. It bends. So there is a kink in the demand curve. The first part is why there is a kink in the demand curve. You have to explain that. Why it is not a single straight line. Why there is a kink and what is the significance of that kink. Remember, corresponding to that kink is arising because of two regions, which is referred as the behavioral pattern, which is observed in oligopoly market. And what is the behavioral pattern? There are two parts. If one firm increases the price, then Paul-Swayze says if one firm increases the price, then others, that means competitors, do not follow. Others do not follow. If one firm increases the price, others do not follow. But if a firm reduces the price, then others follow. So price reduction is being followed, but price increase not followed. Price reduction is being followed, but price increase not followed. Price reduction followed, but price increase not followed. That is the behavioral pattern, and I think it seems very logical. लॉजिकल है क्योंकि अगर कॉम्पिटिटर प्राइस को बढ़ा रहा है, इट इज़ नॉट फोर्सिंग यू टू रेज द प्राइस, बट इफ कॉम्पिटिटर इज लोअरिंग द प्राइस, देन यू हैव टू reduce the price. But what is the implication of these two behavior on this demand curve? से फर्क क्या होगा? When you say increases or decreases, my reference point is kink. Kink के context में पढ़ना है इसको. So when a firm increases price, then what is the impact? Others do not follow. So what will happen? अगर फर्म ने प्राइस को बढ़ाया है तो एट अ हायर प्राइस का क्वांटिटी डिमांडेड कम हो जाएगा, बट अदर्स ने प्राइस को नहीं बढ़ाया है, सो डिमांड चेंज विल बी मोर और लेस. इफ वन फर्म इंक्रीज द प्राइस, अदर्स डू नॉट, so your demand will fall and the change in demand will be more because others ने price को change नहीं किया है. But if you reduce the price, then your quantity demanded will increase. But by how much? Because others has followed. So if all others have also reduced the price, your sales will increase, but only by less magnitude. So lower part has less elasticity and upper part has greater elasticity. Elasticity is determined by a slope. Lower part has less elasticity, upper part has higher elasticity, and because of difference in elasticity of upper and lower segment, there is a bend in the demand curve, and that causes a kink. So first you have to explain why kink arises. So why kink arises here? Kink arises due to these two assumptions, and the assumptions say that when one firm increases the price, others will not follow, but when firm reduces the price, others will follow. As a result, lower segment will be inelastic, elasticity will be low, upper segment will be elastic. Because of difference in elasticity, there will be a kink. Now I have to explain the significance of that kink. इस kink का significance explain करना. तो up to that अभी कोई main diagram नहीं है, it is just rough diagram. You can draw that and just write the first paragraph also. Simultaneously करते जाना. Write down the first paragraph. Paul Swayze introduced Kinked demand curve. Paul Swayze introduced Kinked demand curve as an operational tool सिग्नल आ रहे हैं क्लास के लिए. एक क्लास तो हो गई है. लाइट आ गई। Therefore, upper section of Kinked demand curve has higher price elasticity than the lower section. Full stop. Due to kink in demand curve, its marginal revenue curve is discontinuous. Marginal revenue curve is discontinuous. After comma, at the level of output, corresponding to kink, at the level of output corresponding to kink, the marginal revenue has two segments. Separated by discontinuous range. Has two segments separated by discontinuous range. Mainly we have to explain this part. Now just say X. Remember, when you draw the demand curve in oligopoly, then upper segment is elastic and the lower segment is inelastic. So demand curve is as a point of kink. Because of that kink, you say that there is a discontinuous range in the marginal revenue curve. Just look at this rough diagram. If you draw a demand curve like this, then its corresponding marginal revenue will be in this form, and this marginal revenue curve का जो slope होगा वो demand curve के slope का double होता है. मतलब there is a, whatever be the angle created here, it will be simply bisecting it. That is basically for the technical relationship. So whenever you draw a demand curve, then corresponding to that demand curve you draw marginal revenue curve, and marginal revenue and demand curve has a specific relationship. Now based upon this context, if I say if this will be the demand curve, so if this demand curve would have continued after that, then line would have been this. ये line पूरी हो जाती. Corresponding to that demand curve, you can draw a marginal revenue line. There will be one marginal revenue line. And if this is the demand curve, then जो steeper one है. If this is the demand curve, if you extend this demand curve, then the starting point of this demand curve will be above. This demand curve is not starting from this point. This demand curve is starting from a higher intercept, and this demand curve is starting from this intercept. So when you draw any demand curve, suppose if you corresponding to this demand curve, I have drawn this MR. If demand curve would have been flatter, I will draw MR line also flatter. So first draw marginal revenue up to this point till the point of kink, just but stop there only. This is the marginal revenue for this line. Now we have to draw marginal revenue for which line? Marginal revenue for the remaining section. But that remaining section has not started from this point. If you mark its starting point, it will be above. So you have to draw that MR from that line. So if you extend this, no need to extend, but if you extend this and then draw it, then it will not be start passing through the same point. There will be a gap here, and that gap means there is a discontinuity. अब आप कहोगे how much will be that gap? How much will be that gap? That gap depends upon how much is the difference between these two elasticity. Greater will be the difference, larger will be the gap. Less will be the difference, less will be the gap. If there is no difference, then no gap, there will be no discontinuity. If there will be only one line, then there will be no discontinuity. Discontinuity arises because there is a break in continuity. So where demand curve breaks? Demand curve breaks at that point. So correspondingly, marginal revenue curve has a discontinuous range. You don't need to elaborate that geometry why discontinuity arises. You will simply write what? Due to kink in the demand curve, marginal revenue curve has a discontinuous range. What will be the distance between these 2 points? That depends upon difference in elasticity of upper segment and lower segment. So this will be your marginal revenue line. Now if I cross marginal cost passing through that discontinuous range, remember this point of kink, this point A, this point B, and this quantity Q, all must be in the same line. ये सारे एक ही लाइन में आने चाहिए. All must be in the same line. Now if this is the marginal cost curve where profit get maximized with the intersection of MC and MR, क्या MC कहीं MR को क्रॉस कर रहा है? Marginal cost is not intersecting marginal revenue at any particular point. That means you can't apply the condition of MC equal to MR to determine the quantity. In that context, Paul Suji argued that output is determined by kink. The significance of kink now you are explaining. What is the significance of kink? Kink will determine the output. But how kink determine output? Kink determine output because if firm produces less than that output, then what will happen? If firm produces less than that, remember at any quantity less, what is the relation between MC and MR? At any quantity less, marginal cost will be less and marginal revenue is more. But if marginal revenue is more and marginal cost is less, what does it mean? By producing more, you are adding more to revenue and less to cost. Therefore, it is profitable to produce more of output. Why not firm produces more than Q star? Because if you take any quantity to the right, then for any quantity to the right, marginal revenue is less and marginal cost is more. MC and MR are related in this way now. If marginal cost is more, that means addition to cost is more and addition to revenue is less. So in that case, better for firm to reduce the quantity. So this quantity will continue to change. This quantity will continue to change so that it becomes equal to Q star, and Q star is determined by which point? Q star is determined by the point of kink. Kink is determining the quantity. So now answer, for this quantity what will be the price? If firm has produced this quantity, then what will be the price? Price is always determined from the demand curve. So for this quantity, demand curve kink का point आ गया. So what is the significance of kink now? Kink determine price and kink determine output also. So in that way it is kink demand curve hypothesis. Kink demand curve hypothesis say that the output and price both will be determined by the point of kink. Kink will be determining the both factor. Price determination, remember, whenever you draw any demand curve, suppose I draw this demand curve and I mark this quantity Q. So for that quantity what will be the price? You will mark price from the demand curve. So for quantity Q1 price will be P1. If quantity is Q2, then price will be P2. So now in that context answer, if quantity is Q star, then what is price? For Q star, go to the demand curve, and demand curve will be determining the price. So price and output both are determined by the point of kink. Now use this diagram to explain one more aspect. Suppose cost of firm increases, फर्म का कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ रहा है. नॉर्मली मार्केट में क्या होता है, कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ने पे as cost increases, firm also increase the price. What happens in this case? As cost increases, this marginal cost curve shifts upward, but it is still passing through that discontinuous range. Now if it is still passing through that discontinuous range, then what is the impact on price? It still remains, because you will apply same logic. Any quantity to the left, MR is more, any quantity to the right, MC is more, so quantity will remain same. If quantity remains same, then what is the effect on price? Price also remains same. So this shows that even when cost increases, firm do not change the price. That means prices are rigid. It remains rigid. Prices are rigid. अब जरा लॉजिक बताना कि क्यों चेंज नहीं किया, फर्म ने प्राइस क्यों नहीं बढ़ाया? उसका कॉस्ट तो बढ़ा था, उसने प्राइस नहीं बढ़ाया. रीजन? If that firm will increase the price, then others will not follow. Others will not follow. If it passes through A or B, suppose if you shift this MC further, then it may intersect here also. If you intersect here, then the kink I will draw here. I will just shift the point of kink. Also you say that price is being determined by kink. So if you draw any intersection point, suppose MC may be cutting here also, may be cutting here also, then Paul Suji ने ये नहीं कहा कि kink कहाँ पे होगा. Paul Suji simply say there is a kink. You can draw that kink anywhere. I may draw that kink here, I may draw that kink above, I may draw that kink below. ये हम kink तो कहीं भी draw कर सकते थे. This argument can be used anywhere. So objective is, as cost changes, price will not change. In that way, it is an explanation of rigidity of price. It explains why prices are rigid in oligopoly market. Discontinuous range is good enough in the oligopoly market because there is a greater degree of difference in the upper and lower segment of elasticity. That is the importance of this concept. This concept says that there is a wide range in which cost may fluctuate without affecting price. Then only you can support your argument. Remember, objective simple सा clear है. If you are explaining a model, then that model given by Paul Suji, he has a own perception about the market. What happens? You may agree or disagree. If you disagree with that, I will write it as a part of limitation that Paul Suji fails to explain what will happen if, जो condition आप कह रहे हो वो लिख देंगे. Paul Suji fails to explain at what price kink will arise. It simply assumes that there is a kink, and at that kink prices are being determined. But if there is a kink, there will be a discontinuous range also. And if there is a discontinuous range, then cost may pass through that range also. If cost is passing through that range, then although cost will change but price will not. So if you are answering rigidity of price, then deliberately you will change the cost passing through that range. अब एक फॉर्म से मैं रीड्रॉ कर दे रहा हूँ, स्टेप बाय देख लीजिएगा. इफ यू हैव एनी प्रॉब्लम while drawing it in paper, make this upper part more flatter and just create a significant difference in elasticity. More important difference. Upper part? No, it will be, if you change the assumption, then it will happen. Upper part is more elastic, yeah. तो इलास्टिक में स्लोप कम होगा. स्लोप और इलास्टिसिटी का इन्वर्स रिलेशन होता है.
Delta Y by delta T.
Elasticity, when you write elasticity,
Delta P by delta Y.
then elasticity is equal to 1 upon slope into price by quantity. This is the relation. 1 upon slope आ जाएगा, inverse है slope का. Greater will be the slope, less will be elasticity. Flatter will be the line, more will be the elasticity. Once you draw that kink, draw that straight line first, so that आपका पॉइंट्स लेफ्ट और राइट नहीं होगा. किंक बनाने के बाद आपकी लाइन पहले ड्रॉ कर देंगे. And after that, draw your first marginal revenue, but stop there. Create a gap. How much gap you will create, it is up to you. In fact, graph में कोई relation नहीं है. Just create a gap and after that draw the second part of marginal revenue. And draw marginal cost का passing through that discontinuous part. Mark this quantity Q star. This point was A, this point was B. And for explaining, take any quantity to the left, then MC is less, MR is more. So quantity will increase. Take any quantity to the right, MR is less, MC is more. Quantity will fall. So quantity and price both are determined by point of kink. Kink determine price, kink determine quantity. And to explain rigidity, what you will show? Rigidity means cost will change but price will not. That is why prices tends to be rigid. Why Coke and Pepsi do not change the price? क्या उनका cost change नहीं होता होगा? Cost तो change हो रहा है. Because whatever input they are using, the cost is changing, but they are not changing their price. Because the cost is changing in such a manner that it is still passing through the gap. What happens if any cost affect all firms? Suppose कोई ऐसा cost है जिससे हर firm को affect पड़ रहा हो. Government imposes a tax. Now if government imposes a tax, then what will happen? Tax will be imposed on all firms. So cost of all firm will rise. So in that case, what will happen? All firms will collectively increase the price. So when all firms will collectively increase the price, simply the point of kink will shift upward. The point of kink will shift upward. The explanation will still remain same. The explanation will still remain same, but in that case price can change. So price can change in those conditions where cost is changing in such a manner that it is affecting all firms. So when all firms are equally affected, then all firms will collectively increase the price of the product. So the kink point will simply go up or shift upside. So there are reasons which support that why price can change. But if there is change in cost of one firm, then price will not change, whether it increases or whether it decreases. So ideally this will be the main diagram. On axis it is quantity. Vertical axis you can always write price and cost. Right down below. The equilibrium is defined by point of kink. Equilibrium is defined by point of kink. The equilibrium is defined by point of kink. Blue shape क्यों हो रहा है इसका? विजय? The equilibrium is defined by point of kink. This is because This is because to the left of kink, this is because to the left of kink, to the left of this, to the left of kink, MR is greater than MC. MR is greater than MC. So it is profitable for firm. So it is profitable for firm to increase output. So it is profitable for firm to increase output. However, to the right of kink, to the right of kink, MC is greater than MR. MC is greater than MR. So it will be profitable. So it will be profitable for firm. It will be profitable for firm to reduce output. To reduce output. Therefore, profit get maximized. Therefore, profit get maximized. Profit get maximized corresponding to the output determined by kink. Profit get maximized corresponding to the output determined by kink. Next paragraph. We must note that equilibrium is not necessarily defined by intersection of MC and MR. Intersection of MC and MR after comma, although marginalistic calculations are behind kink equilibrium. Marginalistic calculations are behind kink equilibrium. Next paragraph. The discontinuity of MR implies that there is a range within which cost may change. There is a range within which cost may change without affecting equilibrium price and quantity. This explains price rigidity in market. Next paragraph. The profit
will not be maximum at the beginning.
Why?
MR minus MC will be greater than
But to the left and to the right, obviously it is not highest. If you produce less, you can raise your profit by producing more. If you are producing more, you can increase your profit by producing less. So we can say that profit is highest at corresponding to that. If the output is, obviously you are concluding that the profit is maximized here by applying the logic that what happens to the right and what happens to the left. So if any quantity produced to the left, I can increase profit because left MR is more than MC. So by producing more, you will add more to revenue and less to cost. If you are producing to the right, then you can increase your profit by producing less. But how? Because any point to the right, MC is more and MR is, that means any quantity to the right is adding more to cost and less to revenue. So profitable to not produce that quantity. Therefore profit is highest at point of king. Next paragraph. We must note that
this we can't conclude from the diagram, right?
नहीं डायग्राम से नहीं मार्जिनलिस्टिक प्रिंसिपल बेसिकली फेल हो रहा है ब्रेक डाउन है ये when you have an intersection it satisfies but there is no intersection it break down because if I ask how much is a marginal revenue at the quantity Q star, then what will be the answer? At quantity Q star, what is MR? You can say MR could be this, or you can say MR could be this also. It is indeterminate in fact. Break in continuity है वहाँ. So corresponding to quantity Q star, MR could be interpreted as this value also. It could be interpreted as a larger value also. दोनों में से कोई भी ले सकते हैं, कोई भी वैल्यू ले सकते हैं. इसका मतलब we can't say how much is MR at that point. हाँ उसके बेसिस पे हो रहा है. You are applying that concept that to the left this is happening, to the right this is happening. While arguing that we are using the marginal rule. MC equal to MR is marginalistic rule. Next we must note that discontinuous range of MR. We must note that discontinuous range of MR. We must note that discontinuous range of MR depends on difference in elasticity of upper and lower segment of demand curve. Upper and lower segment of demand curve. Upper and lower segment of demand curve. Full stop. Greater will be the difference. Greater will be the difference in elasticity. Greater will be the difference in elasticity. Wider will be the discontinuity. Wider will be the discontinuity. Wider will be the discontinuity in marginal revenue curve. Wider will be the discontinuity in marginal revenue curve. And wider will be the range of cost conditions. Wider will be the range of cost conditions compatible with equilibrium price and quantity. equilibrium price and quantity. Next paragraph. There is only one case. There is only one case in which there will be only one case in which an increase in cost will most certainly induce firms to increase price and it is the case when increase in cost is in general such as imposition of sales tax that affect all firms uniformly. You may argue for different condition, like suppose if you are referring to the aviation industry, suppose this market is for aviation, few airways are there, and if price of oil increases, then it will affect cost for all the airways. So if it will affecting cost of all the airways, then all airways will collectively increase the price, then point of kink will simply shift up, but same argument will be there at a higher kink as well. So when you explain that kink, remember this description can be done if you draw a kink here, then also you can support that argument. मतलब यहाँ से मैंने एक बार डिस्क्रिप्शन कर लिया, MR और MC बन जाएगी. If this point of kink would have been above, then if this is the point of kink, then corresponding to that kink also again I can draw the diagram. If kink would have been lower, then at that kink also I can apply the same argument. So this model fails to explain what? Where will be that kink? It simply says what? At market price there is a kink. But what is that market price? Who is determining that market price? Not explained in the model. The model fails to explain at what price kink will arise. It simply says there is a kink at market price. So basically this theory is not a theory that determines price. It is a theory that simply says once price get determined, it remain rigid at that price. So it is a theory of price rigidity, not a theory of price determination. That is an important drawback. It is not a theory that explains at what level price will get determined. It is a theory which say that once prices are determined, it will remain rigid at that price. So that part you will write under the heading of limitations or drawback.
So price is existing price is determining kink, or kink is determining price?
Kink is determining price.
Kink.
But where will be that kink? You can counter that. I said kink is here, so price will be this. If you say kink is here, then price will be this. If kink is here, then price will be this. Kink कहाँ पे होगा उसका कोई लॉजिक नहीं बताएगा. That means it fails to explain at what level there will be price, at what level kink will arise. ड्रॉबैक में किंक क्यों होगा? किंक होने से ही तो शुरू किया था. किंक अराइजेज बिकॉज ऑफ दीज टू. किंक क्यों होगा? क्योंकि प्राइस बढ़ाने पे अदर्स फॉलो नहीं करेंगे और प्राइस कम करने पे अदर्स फॉलो करेंगे. उससे फ़र्क क्या होता है? इफ़ अदर्स विल नॉट फॉलो, रिडक्शन इन क्वांटिटी विल बी मोर, सो इट विल बी इलास्टिक. अदर्स फॉलो करेंगे देन रिडक्शन इन चेंज इन क्वांटिटी विल बी less, it will be inelastic. Therefore upper part elastic and lower part inelastic. So if upper and lower part has different elasticity, it means there will be a bend, and bend is basically that kink. So kink is arising because of these two assumptions. Continue करना limitation. Drawback. The model does not explain price and output decision of firm. The model does not explain price and output decision of firm. As it does not define the level at which price will be set in order to maximize profit. Price will be set in order to maximize profit. Second, it is not a theory of pricing. But it is a tool. For explaining. Why prices once determine remains rigid at that level. So including that limitation, the question is usually straight. Like just question number 10th. Explain Kinked demand ka theory with the help of diagram. So you have to just explain that Kinked demand theory with the help of a diagram. So you have to draw one diagram, use the words as explained in that book. So your important keywords will be the behavioral pattern. So what is the behavioral pattern? You have to explain that behavioral pattern first. Why kink arises? Kink arises because of that behavioral pattern. What is the implication of kink? Due to kink there will be discontinuity. Kink determine quantity. Kink determine price. And what is the significance of that range? In that range cost can change without affecting price and quantity. So prices are rigid so long as cost changes in that range. Or read this question number 46. Illustrate Kinked demand curve and bring out the implication for pricing under condition of oligopoly. 46. Illustrate Kinked demand curve and bring out the implication of pricing under oligopoly. 2-3 बार और ये क्वेश्चन आ रखा है, जस्ट ऊपर भी देख सकते हो. Explain oligopoly. Does Swiggy Kinked demand curve solution offer a satisfactory explanation of price and output decision in the oligopoly. So does it offer a satisfactory description? No, it is not offering that satisfactory decision. It only explains rigidity without explaining at what price kink will arise. So in fact complete पूरा ही लिखना है. Bring out the implication of pricing under the condition of oligopoly. What is the implication of that kink? So what is the implication of kink for pricing? Kink will determine price. Why not any other point? Because at any other point the profit is not maximized. If you are producing to the right, then MC was more than MR. To the left, MR was more than MC. So only at the point of kink the profit will be maximized. So in fact you have to explain that complete. जो भी अभी तक लिखा है उसमें complete description आ जाएगा. Now you can start with that non-collusive oligopoly. First will be the Cournot model. Stackelberg model and Burton. Write down the key sentence, because in some question the word Cournot may not be there. How you will get to know the question refers to Cournot model. So in the Cournot model, both firms, remember usually I am talking about duopoly, two firms की बात हो रही है. Both firms determine keyword is output. Both firms determine output simultaneously. Both firms determine their output together. What does that mean? Both firms determine output together means when one firm determines the output, that firm do not know how much output produced by the other firm. And when the second firm determine output, that second firm do not know how much output has been produced by the first firm. Both determine their quantity simultaneously. First write down for Burton. It says both firms determine, the keyword is now price, simultaneously. Both firms determine price simultaneously. Both firms determine price together. So Burton is basically price competition and Cournot is quantity competition. In Burton model you refer to quantity, and in Burton model, in Cournot you refer to quantity, and in Burton we refer to price. So both firms determine price together means when one firm chooses the price, that firm do not know what price has been charged by the other firm, and when the other firm chooses the price, that firm do not know what is the price charged by the first firm. So both determine their output or price simultaneously. So first is quantity competition and this one is price competition. And in this Stackelberg model, it is a first mover. First mover means one firm will move first. One firm will set the quantity, then second firm will decide. That means now second firm know how much output produced by the first firm. So one will be the leader, other will be the follower. So it is Stackelberg leader, but again in Stackelberg there can be two versions. It could be Stackelberg quantity leader, or it could be Stackelberg price leader. That means Stackelberg is related to Cournot also, and Stackelberg is related to Burton also. It is first mover, it is sequential, and this is simultaneous. This is both firm determine output together, and in this both firm determine price together. Again you will say what is the logic or purpose of this, because we see these type of behavior in market. In some cases firms determine their output, and in some cases firm determine their price, and in some cases one firm move first and subsequently the second firm will take a decision. So we have to explain all the aspect one by one. So now start with the first part. Cournot model first. In this Cournot model also there are two parts. One is the original form as given by Cournot, and a recent form. That recent form is explained by a reaction curve approach. A reaction curve approach. A reaction curve is also known as best response curve. But you will start first from the original, then we will move to the recent form. But remember, when you explain this original and recent form, we are studying which model? So in that Cournot model, what happens? Both firm decide their output together. So basically it is output determination theory. It is the output that they are deciding. But they are deciding their output together means what? They are deciding their output together means they do not know how much output has been produced by the other firm. No one knows. Since you do not know, you assume that the output produced by the firm will remain constant and take your own decision. और दोनों firm ऐसे decision लेंगे. So first we will explain the original form. There is no need to write that heading, but start with this Cournot model. Original form is basically based upon very extreme type of assumptions like zero cost, linear demand curve. So there are extreme versions. In that way original है, subsequently it has been modified. So this will be the more practical part, but since content ka part you have to start from this. First paragraph. Cournot model is an example of Cournot model is an example of Cournot model is an example of oligopoly model is an example of oligopoly model. The original version is quite limited. The original version is quite limited in this sense that it makes the assumption that duopolists have identical product. Duopolists have identical product. Duopolists have identical product and identical cost. Identical product and identical cost. They are producing same good in fact. The basic Cournot model assumes that the basic Cournot model assumes that there are two firms each operating with zero cost. There are two firms each operating with zero cost, and they sell their output in a market, with a straight line demand curve. Full stop. Each firm acts on the assumption that competitor will not change its output. And accordingly determines its output so as to maximize profit. Remember, you have to explain this Cournot model. And description, why I am giving you description, because the question is also in this nature. Distinguish between Cournot and Burton model of duopoly. This was the question in the Economic Service 2017. Straight question at this. You have to make a difference between Cournot model and, but weightage is 15 marks. Now how much to write in the 15 marks? The differentiation between Cournot and Burton model. But in 15 marks, that means around 150-200 words आपके पास होनी चाहिए. In order to differentiate, there is no numerical to solve here. You have to make a difference between Cournot and Burton. So what is the main difference? Cournot is basically quantity competition and Burton is price competition. That is one difference. Now elaborate that. We are explaining basically the Cournot model. Suppose there is a straight line demand curve. At the midpoint of demand curve, always remember elasticity is equal to 1. Demand curve के midpoint पे elasticity कितनी होगी? At the midpoint, elasticity tends to be 1, and you can also keep this relationship in mind. MR is equal to price into 1 minus 1 upon elasticity. ये भी एक relationship है. Mathematically prove हो जाता है, but this relationship काफ़ी है आपके लिए. MR equal to P into 1 minus 1 upon elasticity. So if elasticity is 1, then how much will be MR? ये 1 कर दोगे तो MR की वैल्यू क्या हो जाएगी? So remember, when elasticity will be 1, then MR will be 0. In this section, elasticity is more than 1. When elasticity is more than 1, any number you write more than 1, it will remain positive. So if elasticity is more than 1, then marginal revenue will remain positive. But if you write elasticity less than 1, then ये less than 1 है. In that condition, marginal revenue will be negative. so long as elasticity is more than 1, MR remains positive. So this is positive value. When it is equal to 1, then MR will be 0. When it is less than 1, then MR will be negative. So this is your MR line. So whenever you draw that demand curve, MR line will be drawn corresponding to that. जैसे अभी कर रहे थे. It will always be the midpoint. But why it is always midpoint? Because it corresponds to this midpoint. And at midpoint elasticity is 1. So when elasticity will be 1, MR will be 0. So if I write this intercept as 100, what must be this value? If the intercept is 100, what must be this value? Half of it. It is always half. So whenever you draw, remember that will be always half. Whatever be the demand curve, what will be the intercept, it will always cut at the half. या बेसिक नोट में और आप में लिख के अब यू हैव टू अप्लाई दैट कंसेप्ट हियर. ये नोट में लिख लीजिए. वी आर यूजिंग दिस कंसेप्ट टू एक्सप्लेन दिस कोऑर्डिनेट मॉडल. Remember, over a period of time we will also prove that. ठीक है, the proof will be coming in the monopoly chapter. In this topic, just remember that relationship. Now draw the main diagram. Suppose market demand curve is just like this is a linear straight line demand curve. So suppose you draw a market demand curve that is a straight line like this. So if this is the demand curve, you will draw the marginal revenue curve corresponding to that, and this point must be half of the total. Now I assume that cost of production is 0. So where is that cost curve? Cost is 0. So cost curve is in fact coinciding with x-axis. This is your cost line. Marginal cost is always 0. It is simplified assumption. So we are assuming that cost is 0. Suppose there are two firms, firm 1 and firm 2, but right now there is no firm 2, only one firm in market. So if there is only one firm in market, how much quantity that firm will produce? His objective is to maximize his own profit. So how much quantity? What is profit maximizing condition? MR equal to, so where is that condition satisfied? This line is MR line, this line is MC line. So their intersection is at this point. And how much is that quantity? Half of the total. Half of the total quantity. So firm 1 will initially produce half of the total market. This is the quantity produced by firm 1. But this is the quantity produced by firm on what assumption? On the assumption that no quantity will be produced by second firm. Now, if there are two firms in the market, suppose firm 2 enters into the market, because we have to study oligopoly market. Firm 2 enters into the market and firm 2 see that half of the market is produced by firm 1. So how much is remaining? The rest half. Whatever be the remaining, that firm will produce half of that. Reason? वो हाफ क्यों प्रोड्यूस करेगा? Only at the half MR will be equal to MC. जब firm 1 only था तो ये उसके लिए पूरी क्वांटिटी थी, उसने उसका हाफ प्रोड्यूस किया, टोटल का हाफ प्रोड्यूस करना है. So when firm 2 enter into the market, that firm thinks that what is left for him is 1 minus half remaining, and that firm will always produce half of that. So half of that half will be 1 by 4. So if this is the remaining part, 1/4 will be this. इस टोटल का ये हाफ हो गया, रिमेनिंग हाफ का ये हाफ हो गया. सो इनिशियली व्हेन वन फर्म डिसाइड्स, रेस्ट हाफ का ये हाफ है, ये दूसरे IMR हो गया. नाउ firm 2 is producing 1/4. How firm 1 will react now? Remember, initially firm 1 was producing half on what assumption? 2 is producing 0. But now 2 is producing 1/4. So what firm 1 will consider? 1/4 has been produced by firm 2. So what is remaining? If 1/4 has been produced by this, the remaining is 3 by 4, and half of that will be produced. So half of that means 3 by 8. ठीक है. रिमेंबर ये फर्स्ट पीरियड हो गया. फर्स्ट पीरियड में फर्म 1 ने कितना प्रोड्यूस किया है? बेस्ड अपॉन व्हाट assumption? Firm 2 produces 0. Now second firm reacts. Second firm produces 1/4 on what assumption? Firm 1 has produced half. Now since second firm is producing 1/4, first firm will again think that 1/4 is produced by firm 2. So what is left? 3/4. Half of that will be produced. Now what will be the response of firm 2 now? 3 by 8 produced by firm 1. So what is left? 5 by 8. Half of that, 5 by 16. That action reaction pattern will continue, and it will lead to a condition where both firm produces 1/3 and 1/3 of the market. Both firm individually produces 1/3 and 1/3 of the market. Now we'll say मुझे ये 1/3 1/3 कहाँ से मिल रहा है? If you form a series, ये एक GP series बन जाएगा, and the sum of that GP series will finally come out to be 1/3. For that purpose you can only learn an equation. It is 1 upon n plus 1 हमेशा रहेगा, where n is what? Number of firm. तो कितने फर्म है यहाँ पे? 2 फर्म है, तो ये 1/3 हो जाएगा. But model can be explained by taking 3 firm also. So if there will be 3 firm, then it will be 1/4 आ जाएगा. It will lead to मतलब finally end result कह रहा हूँ. First period action, this is basically an action reaction pattern. So this action reaction pattern will continue, and due to that action reaction pattern, ultimately each will be producing 1/3 and 1/3. Each will be producing 1/3 and 1/3. Now if each is producing 1/3 and 1/3, how much is the total for market? Total for market will be the 2/3. मार्क कर सकते हो इस डायग्राम में 2/3 कहाँ आएगा? ये पूरा है, ये हाफ है, ये हो गया इसका हाफ का हाफ, दो ये 3/4 हो जाएगा. सो वी विल बी द 2/3 समवेयर इन बिटवीन. ठीक है. सो इन द कॉर्नेट मॉडल द क्वांटिटी विल बी समवेयर इन बिटवीन. ये आउटपुट आना है, 2/3 आएगा. This will be the quantity produced in the Cournot model. So corresponding to that quantity, what will be the price? Price will be determined this. ये आपका फाइनल आंसर हो जाएगा, जिसमें क्वांटिटी 1/3 and 1/3 होगी, एंड टोटल क्वांटिटी विल बी 2/3. नाउ एक्सप्लेन वन पार्ट मोर हियर. Is this the quantity at which profit of both firm get maximized? क्या वो क्वांटिटी यहाँ पे दोनों फर्म का प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइज हो रहा है? यहाँ पे कॉल्यूजन और नॉन कॉल्यूजन का जरा डिफरेंस समझ लेना. सपोज इफ बोथ फर्म मेक अ कॉल्यूजन, देन हाउ मच क्वांटिटी दे वुड हैव प्रोड्यूस्ड? दोनों ने अगर कॉल्यूड कर लिया होता, तो दोनों ने कॉल्यूड कर लिया, तो अब बताओ, अगर मार्केट में 2 ही फर्म है और 2 फर्म कॉल्यूड कर जाए, तो मार्केट का नेचर क्या हो गया? मोनोपोली हो गया. 2 फर्म, लेट सपोज 2 फर्म मर्जेस, so that market becomes monopoly. So if it would have been a monopoly, then how much output would have been produced? If it would have been a monopoly, then how much output? Monopoly तो फर्स्ट कंडीशन ही था ना, जब फर्स्ट फर्म ने, इस डायग्राम को मैं रिपीट कर दे रहा हूँ. If it would have been a monopoly, this was the demand curve, marginal revenue curve will cut here half. So if it would have been a monopoly, then only this much quantity will be produced, which is half of the total market, and corresponding to that firm will charge monopoly price. So this is price in monopoly, this is the quantity in monopoly. ध्यान देना, ये जो हॉरिजॉन्टल लाइन बनाई गई ये एमसी की लाइन है. सो अंडर मोनोपोली price is this, quantity is this. If this market would have been perfectly competitive, then what will happen? एक फर्म की जगह अगर लार्ज नंबर ऑफ फर्म होते तो क्या होता? मार्केट वही रहने दीजिए, डायग्राम भी ये रहेगा. If in this market there would have been large number of firm, then what will be the outcome? Under perfect competition, how much quantity firm will produce? Under perfect competition, firm will produce that much quantity where price becomes equal to marginal cost, P equal to MC. But how much is MC here? MC is 0. So price will be 0. Price, but if price is 0, then how much is quantity? If price is 0, then quantity will be this. So under perfect competition, this is the quantity. Under perfect competition. अब इस कंटेक्स्ट में बताना कॉर्नेट सॉल्यूशन कहाँ पे आया है? Where is that Cournot solution lying? This is monopoly. This is perfect competition. Where is that Cournot solution? I said 2/3. So 2/3 is somewhere in between. 2/3 is somewhere in between. This is the quantity under Cournot, and corresponding to that, this will be the price charged in the Cournot model, and 0 will be the price under perfect competition. So Cournot solution is a case in between monopoly and perfect competition. It is a case in between. So this will be the 2/3. I repeat, 1 by n plus 1 आना है. This will be output produced by one firm. So how much will be the output produced by all firms? Output produced by all firm will be n by n plus 1, n से multiply कर दिया. So if it is 1/3, then the total quantity is 2/3. If there will be 4 firm, then 4 फॉर्म होने पे क्या आ जाएगा आउटपुट? 4/5. तो ये वैल्यू और बढ़ जाएगी. 5 फर्म हो जाए और बढ़ेगा. नंबर ऑफ फर्म बढ़ाते जाओगे तो आउटपुट किधर जा रहा है? कंपटीशन की तरफ जा रहा है, विच इज करेक्ट. इन द कॉम्पिटिटिव मार्केट देयर आर मेनी फर्म्स. सो एज यू इंक्रीज द फर्म इन मार्केट, द सॉल्यूशन विल बी मूविंग टुवर्ड्स more and more competition. If there will be more firms in the market, the output will be moving more and more towards competition market. So Cournot solution is basically a case in between monopoly and perfect competition. Just remember that part. Rest is basically description. You don't need to explain that diagram. वो जो 1/2, 1/4, 3/8, 5/16 लिखा है, that will not going to be the part of your answer. That was just explained to show that there will be an action reaction pattern going on, and through that action reaction pattern they will lead to an equilibrium, and at equilibrium they will be producing how much quantity? 1 by n plus 1. So that argument you don't have to write. What you have to write, you should write below that. The action reaction pattern, remember you are not explaining basically these type of values. If you are referring to the book, in book it will be given, but it will not going to be the part of your answer. The action reaction pattern continue As firms have action reaction pattern continue. As firms have naive behavior of NAIV word ये use करना. As firms have naive behavior of, it is basically unintelligent behavior you can say, or not sophisticated. Firms have naive behavior of never learning from past pattern of reaction of their competitor. Past pattern of reaction of their competitor. However, eventually an equilibrium will be reached. In which each firm produces one third of total market, and together they produce 2/3 of total market. Next paragraph. Each firm maximizes their own profit. But industry profit is not maximized. This is because firms ignore their interdependency. If they recognize their interdependency, then it would lead them to act as a monopolist. Producing half of total market, and sharing that market equally. Next paragraph. Cournot solution is a stable solution. Where each firm produces 1/3 of market, 1/3 of market and sell it at a common price, sell it at a common price which is lower than monopoly price, but above competitive price, which is lower than monopoly price but above competitive price, lower than monopoly price but above competitive price. और ये पॉइंट इसको नोट कर लेंगे below that. In general, if there are n number of firms, if there are n number of firms in industry, then each firm will produce each firm will produce 1 by n plus 1 of market, and industry output will be n by 1 plus 1. Industry output will be n by n plus 1. फर्म का आउटपुट होगा 1 by n plus 1, total output will be n by n plus 1. Below that, write some important limitations, then we can move to the other approach. The behavioral pattern of firm is naive, as they do not learn. The behavioral pattern of firm is naive as they do not learn from past mistake. Actually this point, ये point explain कर रहा है कि each period firm assumes that the output produced by other firm will remain constant, despite the fact that in every period the competitor is changing the output. जो description था उसमें क्या था? In the first period, first firm assumed the output produced by other firm will remain 0. Accordingly, it produces half. But in the subsequent period, firm 2 changes the output. But although firm will change the output in every period, but in every period what I am assuming? That my competitor is not going to change the price. Such behavior has been referred as naive behavior. That means you are not learning from your past mistake or experience. Second, it is a closed model. Because entry is not allowed. It is a closed model because entry is not allowed. Once adjustment process begins. Closed model argument is this. Remember, you can explain that Cournot model by starting with 2 firm. But if you start description by 2 firm, third can't enter. We can explain the same model by starting with 3 firm, but in that case, 4th can't enter. So in that way, the model is closed. See, although quantity produced by competitor although quantity produced by competitor is assumed to be constant, quantity produced by competitor is assumed to be constant at each stage after comma it is quantity competition, it is quantity competition it is quantity competition which reduces or which drives price, which drives price down towards competitive price, which drives price down towards competitive price. Like quantity competition is reducing this price and it is moving towards which price? It is moving towards the competitive price and away from monopoly price. Fourth, the model does not say how long adjustment period will be. The model does not say how long adjustment period will be. How long adjustment period will be. Whether it will take 2 period, 3 period, or how much time it will take to reach that 1/3 and 1/3. And fifth, the assumption of costless production, the assumption of costless production is unrealistic. The assumption of costless production is unrealistic. Remember, this approach has basically two different parts. So one part was basically this original form. The original form has various drawbacks, and in that context you explain the within that same approach the reaction curve approach. ठीक है, यहाँ तक का कर लेना. Reaction curve approach. It is still Cournot model, but Cournot model has two versions. One is the original. Original assume that cost is 0. This new version does not assume that cost will be necessarily 0. So cost may be 0, may not be 0. So this is a better description as compared to the original. Original में बहुत सारी complexity आपको लगी कि ऐसे adjustment क्या हो रहा है. That confusion will be over by explaining this approach. So same Cournot model has been explained again, but by using the reaction curve, because that was very vague. First period, second period, third period, fourth period, and this is basically a simple description. So in that way it is an improvement within the Cournot model. So it is reaction curve approach. Reaction curve is also known as best response curve. So within that first paragraph, this approach is more powerful method. This approach is more powerful method. Class है 2 मिनट 1 मिनट. This approach is more powerful method of analysis of oligopoly. This approach is more powerful method of analysis of oligopoly, because it allow the relaxation of assumption of identical cost. But this approach will be used in order to explain this Cournot model numerically also, like how to calculate it exactly given any function. So in the only one numerical which you can say from the market structure so far asked in the last 10 to 15 years in the optional paper, both are basically on the Cournot model. दोनों बार में एक ही क्वेश्चन है. One it was asked in 2009 and other 2013. ये दो IS वाले पेपर में है, but in economic service you can find the same question. So only one numerical that will be explained by using that reaction curve. ठीक है, चलो जिनकी क्लास है तो यहाँ से कंटिन्यू कर लेंगे कल. ठीक है, तो ट्राई टू बी एट अराउंड 2:15 तक क्लास फिर स्टार्ट कोशिश करते हैं. 2:15 तक. आपकी क्लास कितने बजे तक? हाँ आ जाना. 2:15 तक ट्राई करो कि जल्दी आ जाओ. हाँ, दैट मीन्स फर्स्ट पीरियड, सेकेंड पीरियड, थर्ड पीरियड, फोर्थ पीरियड, फिफ्थ पीरियड, हाउ मच टाइम. n पीरियड होता है वो. अब n की वैल्यू कितनी होगी उसका कोई लॉजिक नहीं दिया गया. हाउ मच टाइम इट विल टेक, नॉट एक्सप्लेन. ठीक है, रेफरेंसेस अगेन दैट नॉन कॉलिसिव ओलिगोपोली, कुर्सानिस में चैप्टर आई थिंक 8 विल बी देयर. नॉन कॉलिसिव ओलिगोपोली, दैट नॉन कॉलिसिव इंक्लूड कॉर्नट, बॉर्टन एंड स्टेकलबर्ग एंड प्राइस रिजिडिटी ऑल्सो. हो जाओ.